Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, with an abject lesson in the world of classical music, which is that we must all keep on listening, because you can't prejudge anyone or anything, however cynical, however tired, however jaded you've become. Do you believe in miracles? Well, I sort of do, because I just heard Simon Rattle's latest Mahler Ninth, and it's really, really good. My goodness, third time's a charm. Now, this, of course, begs the question of why we had to listen to him crap all over Mahler Ninth the first two times he did it. Not terribly successfully, but boy, oh boy, he really nails it with this one. And it just goes to show, A, that I think the orchestra is often more important than the conductor, and B, that the conductor can grow into a work. What the balance of things are here, well, that's impossible to say. This is a live recording with the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra on their own label. It's very beautifully recorded, and boy, do they play. My goodness, they play. It's a fresh, lively, unaffected performance of the Mahler Ninth, and that's the difference. Maybe at this point he's gotten to a stage in his career where he is willing to, I wouldn't say let the music, people say let the music speak for itself. That's nonsense. You're always interpreting. Always. I mean, the orchestra is interpreting, the individual players are interpreting, the conductor is doing it, but what he wants to do, whatever that is congruent with what the music wants to do. That's the point. There are no bizarre agogic mannerisms like that horrible retard he used to do at the end of the Rondo Burlesque, when it should be flying to the end and all of a sudden he stops dead in the last bar. Ugh. Things like that. The tempos tend to be on the speedy side compared to his other performances. It's a 23-minute long finale, a 27-minute long first movement. He really doesn't put a foot wrong anywhere. And he gets the playing to be characterful. Or the orchestra is just more characterful than either Berlin or Vienna was in this. Can you imagine? I know it. It's going to sound like damning with faint praise, but you give a guy the Vienna Philharmonic and then the Berlin Philharmonic in Mahler 9, and they both blow it. And then you give him the Bavarian Radio Symphony Orchestra, which is a wonderful orchestra, and they nail it. They're much better than Berlin and much better than Vienna in this performance anyway. And so what are the highlights? Well, first of all, the first movement is extremely cogent. When Rattle does something individual, and he does have some, for example, the violin phrasing generally tends to be almost Karajan-esque legato. It's a little blurry in terms of its rhythm, but very, very effective. It's quite beautiful. The balances are very good. You hear the woodwind parts very nicely. The brass are sensitively integrated into the texture, not overwhelming, but they're not like somewhere out in another country. And he tends to accelerate into those passages, which speed up, that leading to the big collapse episodes. He anticipates the tempo to come, but none of it is exaggerated. It feels natural. It feels like this is where the music is. The creepy, quiet things are creepy and quiet. Of course, there is no tam-tam at the big climax. Maybe someplace down at the texture. Why can't they just whack the crap out of it? I don't know. I just don't know. That's what Mahler wants. But it's still very, it's got a good solid bass on the bottom, and it's very, very powerful. The brass really nail their death rhythm, and he uses bell plates instead of other bell things, but you can hear them. There's a transparency about it all that really, really works beautifully. So the first movement is absolutely lovely. The two inner movements are marvelous. The first scherzo has nicely distinguished tempi between its three major dances. The strings really dig, but you also hear the woodwinds. They have that klutziness, And the roughness of the strings when they dig in, it's not crude. It's not overdone to the point where it draws attention to itself and distracts you from what the music is doing. And the waltz, the demented waltz episodes are just fantastic. And Rattle is very, very careful to pay attention to Mahler's desire that they should accelerate each time you hear them a little bit. I mean, it's really, really well done. I mean, there's real quality conducting here. Yes, indeedy. The Rondo Burlesca. Ooh, yeah. It's ferocious. It's contrapuntally really, really clear. You hear all kinds of stuff sticking and poking out that you may not have heard before. The central episode, as Rattle usually does, Mahler only marks it somewhat held back, which means it's really not that much slower from the body of the movement. A lot of conductors have the tempo there, and Rattle doesn't, but at the same time, there's enough flexibility and rubato that lets you give it the feeling of a much slower section within the whole, and the whole concluding part, it just rips. Oh my goodness. And he does press all the way on till the end. It's very, very exciting. And the finale is beautiful. First of all, the strings are marvelous. The creepy, quiet episodes, those moments of stasis, have stasis. They're creepy and they're quiet, but they're not inaudible, as they were in Berlin, for example. The ticking clock business, do, 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 do. It's soft, but it doesn't vanish completely, which is really important. You have to hear everything that Mahler's doing. And boy, does he peg the climax. It's thrilling. I mean, thrilling. They just come roaring in. The only thing I noticed is that there is maybe like a little bauble in the horns after that climax. You know, when they come back in with the da 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 da, that business. There's something sounds a little bit off just for a second, but I mean, it's a contextual thing. I don't think they're playing any wrong notes or anything. It's just the way the balance is worked out. It's really lovely, and the closing pages are beautifully poetic, and again, not exaggerated. He lets the music, he keeps everything in context. It's sensitively done. There are moments, there are things he's doing that other people don't do, but he does them well, and he makes it work, and they are consistent with what Mahler wrote and what the expressive content of the music seems to be at any given moment. And this is one of the really fine Mahler nines. It just is. It's a great Mahler ninth. I have no hesitation in saying so. And I'm so happy. I'm happy, first of all, because no one wants to listen to a Mahler ninth and have it be a dud. And second of all, because Rattle is no one has a greater record of failure on disc than Simon Rattle. But you root for the guy. I want him to do well. He's going to be recorded. He's taking one post after another. And I'd like to think that this is a harbinger of great things to come. I don't believe it for a minute. We need to keep on listening. That's the lesson. But if you're looking for a really fine single disc Mahler ninth, this is a great one. It really is. There are some other great ones too. There's Kurt Masur, there's Karl Anschirl, they all have their character. But this is as good as any. It really is. It's first class. It was a great night at the Symphony, and I am just happy as a lark to be able to say so and tell you. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.